All right, welcome to another episode of the Logicast. My name is BlankaKong, joined by Gunnar Eos today,
Hello.
and this week's topic is going to be, I guess, a lighter one, but I think it's important to have this conversation at some point or another. And I guess today is just the day because Microsoft is increasing the price of Game Pass. And so this week's topic, if you can tell by the thumbnail and the description or the title, we're going to be talking about video game subscriptions in like a vacuum, in a general sense. And Game Pass's price increase is just going to be like a springboard to just the general conversation. So there'll be an article in the description down below that you can reference, or one that we're referencing, you can also read through it. This article is posted on July 10th. And basically, yeah, Game Pass Ultimate pricing will increase from $16.99, that's US currency, to $19.99. So only a $3 increase, but that's a 17% increase, which is still significant.
Yeah.
And it's going to be increased in all major countries across the globe. Let's see, PC Game Pass subscribers will also see a price increase on September 12th. So this hasn't taken place yet. It'll happen from $9.99 to $12.99, so a $2 increase. Excuse me. As well as Microsoft is going to introduce a Game Pass standard tier, which is going to be the tier below this Ultimate tier, which is going to be $15 a month. But it'll exclude the major day one exclusives that are tied to Game Pass, that Game Pass is quite frankly known for. So big games like the new Gears of War game, big games like I could think of something, the new Doom, any like Halo, like Fable's gonna be a big one for some people.
Fable, probably Elder Scrolls 6 when that comes out.
Whenever that decides to come out. Not, I used to be interested in the idea of Elder Scrolls 6, and just seeing what Bethesda's been doing lately is just like, you know what? I got Skyrim and I got Oblivion and Morrowind. I think that's where we're at.
I mean, after Starfield's performance,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if the fantasy dragon setting will change.
Yeah, I don't think so. But anyway, I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole. Yeah, like anybody who's paying the $15 a month, which at one point was the standard price back then for like Ultimate. I think it was $15 like 2 years ago, maybe something like that. It was pretty affordable. I think it was as low as $10, maybe. Like, you know, if we're talking like 2020, like during the pandemic time or whatever. But
yeah, I remember I got into PC Game Pass around that time, and you know they were always known for having a sale, so I think I got in for like $5. But I've been paying the $9.99. So I guess if I decide to keep it, I'll be the $11.99 crew come September if I decide to keep it.
Yeah, so let's talk about the Game Pass for a second before we get into the other subscription services. And let's extrapolate as to why they're doing this now. It's pretty obvious, I think. Game Pass and just subscribers to the service have stagnated over time. They've hit a plateau.
Yeah.
And they've been saying for a while they've been trying to like increase their user base. I think last year, it was either last year or a year and a half ago, something like that, where they eliminated Xbox Live Gold and bundled. They basically, anybody who just had Xbox Live Gold got upgraded to the Game Pass. And so they used that as a way to say, yeah, look at the growth that we incurred over the last year, you know. And really what it was is they just took people that were paying for one service and kind of put them in this corner over here with the other people. I'm like, yeah, look, we had a 10% increase. And it's like, not really, but all right, we're going to pretend. And and now that they don't have any plays like that anymore, they have to simply charge more from the existing user base because there's no new users flocking to the program because, quite frankly, I think it just hit a plateau. It's not that the service is bad. It's just anybody who wants the service is in the ecosystem already, and there is no more growth to be had, right? I think it's just that simple. And so
yeah, No, 100%. A lot of the growth that Game Pass experienced was the same type of growth that a lot of companies experienced during the infamous stay-at-home or else years.
Hmm.
So, like, obviously they went up because you're getting, at least in America, you're getting checks from the government. I'm bored. I can't leave, or it's not advised that I leave. So what can I do? Oh, well, Game Pass, it's $10 a month, and I can play the new Halo or old Halo or whatever, old Gears. And it's just like all of that is done. It's all of
Yeah.
that's done. People are, if anything, people are cutting back now with how things are going outside of gaming.
Yeah, the economy is not what it once was. Either in the ouchie, the what is it called, the Fauci ouchie era. I love that. Or before it, like things are different. We're past that point. People are going back to work. People are back. Like society's kind of like closer to normal than it ever has been. In the 5-year scope. So a lot of people who that increase that they saw, and this is not just video games. This is almost every industry. Like companies like Target and Walmart saw incredible growth during that time, and they're now kind of taking a few steps back because it's like, well, shit, we grew and we can't sustain this new population of stores because we're not making the same money that we used to. And it's like, well, yeah, no shit. People who were shopping, who were forced to shop with you, are no longer maybe shopping with you, or maybe taking alternative options or whatever. And so, yeah, no duh, right? And apparently nobody
Yep.
was able to see that, and they thought that this growth was the new standard.
Yeah.
And
They thought the money train was gonna keep going
yeah, and
forever. Yeah.
part of me doesn't blame them, because it's like when I think a lot of people can relate to this. When you work a job, and let's say you're in this tax bracket and you're making a certain amount of money, you kind of live within that lifestyle of what you can afford. And let's say if you get promoted and you start making more money, you tend to spend more money because you're making more money.
True.
Like you tend
Yeah.
to eat out more, you tend to buy more expensive things, you tend to splurge a little bit when it comes to buying stuff for yourself or for your spouse or whatever, because it's like, this is the new standard. This is now my new minimum. And instead of just kind of being frugal and maybe staying to that older budget, and instead of that extra money going toward like frivolous things, you save it or you invest it or whatever. People tend to just go, fuck it. I could just spend more on, luxury items or luxury activities or whatever the case. And so for major companies, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, well, this is the new standard. This is how much we make now. This is, and we want to make more, like, because that's how fucking
Yep.
American or just modern Western businesses work. Like, it's always, if you're not growing, you're dying, basically. And then I don't really believe that, because there is something called the plateau. There's a limit. There's a ceiling, and one can maintain that over time, right? Like, if you don't see growth, it's like, okay, well, are we losing money? No, we're kind of riding a wave. All right, well, let's ride the wave. But that's not good enough for a lot of these companies.
No, it's yeah.
It's in fact a failure. Like, if you don't see any growth, even though you didn't lose anything, it's like, oh well, okay, we're exactly where we were last year. And it's like, well, that's great. That means we maintained business. And it's like, no, that's not good enough. We want to see at least a 10% growth. And it's like, all right, dude. Like, I remember being part of meetings like that, like at my old job, and I was just ready to shoot myself, because it's like, you just can't keep. There is never enough. Like, there's always more, and I don't know. That shit it's just annoying.
Yeah. And you can always tell when the plateau comes when when you see a price increase, because if they have people who keep coming into their ecosystem, there's no need for a price increase, because Xbox, since they're the original originator of this topic, if they have more people getting into Game Pass, Ultimate, PC or console, it's like, okay, cool, that's a new person into the ecosystem. But once that plateaus, the only option is to now price gouge your existing audience. So this is what we saw with Sony. Sony recently did this. Xbox is just now doing this, and Nintendo is kinda done it. But I guess we'll get into it later. I feel Nintendo still, if I want to be charitable to them, gives out of all the three bigs, they give you the biggest bang for your buck. It just depends if you're that type of person who cares about what Nintendo's offering. Because if you don't, then it's probably the worst out of the big three. But
Yeah, it kind of depends on what your interest is as far as gaming is concerned. That kind of determines the value proposition of what they have, so or what they offer. So yeah, just to quickly wrap up, Game Pass, they're increasing the price. These effects are going to be taking place in early to mid September, so September 12th. So if you have Game Pass, um, and you pay for it monthly or you know annually or whatever that looks like for you, September 12th, that price is going to increase. And before we jump to the other guys, we were talking before this recording, and like I was talking about some people in my family, as well as like other like former coworkers, friends who are like big Game Pass advocates. Like, oh my god, the value that you get for like I was like, my man, like, is Phil Spencer got you on the payroll? Like, why you pushing this so hard? And like,
sponsored by Microsoft.
I had a coworker, and he was so. I used to work at GameStop, and I would have customers come in, and they would buy an Xbox or whatever, and I would, mention like a few game recommendations depending on like whatever it is that they were interested in playing. So if it was like an older guy who wanted to play like military shooters and stuff like that, then I was like, yeah, you could play, Black Ops 3, or you could play, whatever older Call of Duty games, because I know that like the whole online thing isn't compatible with some of these older gamers, and they're not looking for that kind of experience. And so like this coworker would like kind of interject himself into that conversation and start talking about Game Pass. Like, Game Pass is amazing. Like, you could buy the games, individually or whatever, but if you pay for this, it's like Netflix for games. And like, you have access to hundreds of great games and blah 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 blah. And he's like just upselling this, and like most of those customers were just like, wow, really? Like, what a deal. And then like they'll buy it, right? And then they're calling the store an hour later because they're confused, and they're like, well, I don't see any games I like. There's a lot, but like there's a lot of little kid shit, and I don't, and like I have to pay for this every 3 months or every month. Like, that doesn't, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I want a contract. And like, most people want a simple, just transaction of, I give you money, you give me the thing, and I have the thing, and that's it, right? Yeah. And I'm a part of that boomer mentality. I just want the thing. I'm gonna pay you whatever premium it costs, and we're done, right? Like, I'll come back if I want more stuff. But the big thing with these subscriptions is Microsoft and every company, it's not just Microsoft, it's all of them, they want you to be a perpetual fucking drip feed of profitability indefinitely, forever. Like, they want you to be a slave to their shareholders, to their profit goals, all of that. And they want to be able, over time, eventually the value proposition is going to degrade and decay, and we're starting to see that now, where it's like, yeah, Game Pass was pretty cool 2 years ago, but now, like, I haven't used it in 6 months, and that's what they want. Like, it's great, you're paying me for nothing. Like, it's such a fucking scam, in my opinion. Subscription services are a fucking scam. At its core, it's designed for you to forget about it and continue to pay for it. And if you use it every now and again, cool. Look how much this guy has used this service compared to how much he paid us. Like, this is a huge win here. So that's really what it is. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say, and from like the normie, the average Joe perspective, you might not use Game Pass for 6 months, like you said, and then they announce a game you really like is on it, and then you hop on a Game Pass. If you canceled your Game Pass already because it's just like, I'm not using this, I'm losing money, it's like, fuck, but I canceled it, but I really want to play this. So now you have to make the decision: do I give them the entry fee and I'm locked in for a month? There's no way I have to stay. I paid for this service for a month, and then it's like, do you want to play that game? Some people do, and I don't know how. They'll sub for a month and then unsub, sub for another month and unsub, and there's a reason why other stuff like Netflix and stuff, they used to drop all of their shows day one, and people would sub for a month and then leave. They stopped doing that and tried to stretch it over at least 3 months so we can get you for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
But that's tedious in its own right. So a lot of people tend to keep, and I'm guilty of this myself in some respects. They'll keep a subscription going for like the one, like, the time they will use it. They don't have to be roadblocked by like, oh well, you did cancel. Do you want to resub? It's just like, oh, you never left. Welcome.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they hope for. That's what they want. Gym memberships are a prime example of that. You go in when you're gung ho, you want to work out, get that summer body, you end up not doing it, but it's just like, but if I do go back to the gym, it's a lot easier to just keep the subscription going than have to go through the whole resubbing process.
Yeah, the social anxiety tied to having to go into a gym, canceling the membership in person is like, I mean, that's like just a general joke. Like, I remember a Friends episode where like it was exactly that. Like, the two characters had a gym membership, and they're like, no, we're gonna cancel it. We're gonna go in there. We're gonna be strong. We're gonna cancel. We're gonna stick to our guns. And they go into the gym or whatever, and the sales guy or whatever, he's like, well, I guess I can't convince you, but you have to speak to my manager first in order to finalize the cancellation. And then there's like this super hot buff chick who, she's not buff, but like she's fit or whatever, comes in like Russian or something, and she's like, you want to cancel membership? And she's like pushing up her titties or whatever, and they're like, oh, what membership? And then of course they never cancel. That's effectively, instead of doing that, like what they do is they'll make it super inconvenient and difficult for you to cancel, right?
Yeah,
and
yep. That's another thing too.
It's all that's why I hate it. Like, I know it's built around this scummy fucking, like, snakeskin oil salesperson kind of like mentality and approach. It's like, you're not giving me a value because you genuinely want to sell something and make the world a better place, and there's no real positive here. You're doing it for profitability, and you're going to take advantage of any person who will allow themselves to be taken advantage of. And the fact that people ignore that and pretend like that's not the case, or pretend like that doesn't exist, I don't know what to tell you if you're that person.
Yeah.
They're absolutely trying to price gouge you for every dollar that they can. And if they could take more from you, they will. And these price increases are proof of that. So, I don't know. Listen, if you want Game Pass and you see value in it, I don't see anything wrong with paying for it. But I just can't bring myself to join that ecosystem, because I know it's built around this scummy fucking perspective. Like, I was trying to help my brother like re-sign up for it. I think I mentioned this before we started recording, where like before they used to have like an annual price, and that was like a little cheaper than you pay monthly, and then they would have like a 6-month price and a 3-month price. That shit is all gone. Like, it's off the store. Like, you can't, and if it's there, it's fucking hidden. I couldn't find that shit. And we did the calculations, and it ended up being like $180 for the entire year. That's like, damn, that's a lot of money for this Netflix service. It's like, that's rough. And then with this price increase, it's now going to be $240 a year, paying on a month by month basis for any USD, that is, come September 12th. That's crazy to me. That's half of the value of the console that you're playing it on.
Yeah,
that's like that's rough, man. That's a lot of money.
And what I said when we were talking about that was, that's why they kind of don't want you to get it. They don't want to show you the yearly price, because if you see that big number, even the most financially illiterate person is going to go, that's a lot of money. Do I want to spend that? And I mentioned how Sony is just so up on their high horse that they're like, yeah, you want our PlayStation Plus extra? That's $135 a year. cool. So you're putting in that credit card number, right? Like Sony doesn't care, but that's hubris.
Yeah.
Like Sony is so full of themselves that they can tell you the upfront price, and it's like, yeah, you're gonna sign up. So just stop looking at the numbers and just sign up, idiot. While Microsoft, it's kind of an admittance that Game Pass isn't doing so well, which is why they don't want you to see the yearly price. They don't make it obvious, and they want you to do monthly because $15 a month sounds a lot more manageable in a person's head than 180 or 200 something for a year. So,
Well,
yeah. But that's just a hubris thing on Sony's
agreed.
part.
And we'll talk about Sony in just a second. But like, to be honest, like so $240 a year in the grand scheme of things isn't a lot of money per se, right? You most people make that in half a day, right? Like it's not about necessarily the amount of money it is a year. It's just like what you're getting back for that amount of money. It just seems like you start to question it, right? I don't know.
Right, it's the intrinsic value of the service that you're spending this $240 on.
Yeah, and it's like, damn, like that's because games now are like, premium games, air quotes, quadruple A. They're $70 a pop, right? That $240 is essentially 3 games, right? Basically, 210 if you include taxes or whatever. It's 3 major title releases. So like some people will argue that Game Pass, if they're planning to play certain games on day one, then like the 240 is not that bad because they're going to get all these extra other benefits attached to it. But I would love to see the pie chart showcasing, like, out of all the people who have Game Pass, how many people really use it to that degree or play the games that would fit that description. I'm pretty sure it's under 10%, like easily under 10%.
Probably.
That's my guess. I don't know. But let's talk about Sony. So Sony recently, well, I say recently, it was a year ago. Last September, they increased the price of their membership, PlayStation Plus, and they also added they added new tiers, I think 2 years ago. That was 2 years ago that they added premium and extra. And then last September, they increased the prices of all these things. So Essential, which is just normal PlayStation Plus, is $10 a month still. So it's retained that monthly value. But for an entire year, you pay, $80 a month, $80 a year. 25 for 3 months, and then a month is 10. Extra, which is their tier 2, is $135 a year, 40 every 3 months, 15 a month. Premium, if you want everything, is $160 for the year, 50 for 3 months, and 18 for a month. Now, what do you get for all that? Well, if you're on Essential, you get your free games, air quotes, free games every 2 months. Or 2 games every month. I think it's 2 to 3 games. You get to play online. You get discounts, exclusive plus content, whatever that means, cloud storage, and share play. Tier 2, you get everything I just mentioned, plus the game catalog and the Ubisoft Plus Classics. I didn't even know that was a thing. So the game catalog is just I think like their, what was it called? PlayStation Now? I think it's their PlayStation Now service, but bundled with PlayStation Plus. So they kind of did what Microsoft did, where they kind of bundled their services together. And so you have access to certain PS4 games digitally as well as PS3 games digitally. And if you want the premium membership, you get everything I just mentioned, plus the Classics catalog, which include PS1, PS2, PSP, and select PS3 games. You get access to those titles as well. And it's select titles. It's not like the entire library or anything like that. It's just, cherry-picked titles that they have the right to resell.
Bro, I'm telling you, if they had the entire PS2 library, I might think about doing it with some of the prices in the third-party market for some of these games.
And I'm gonna piggyback off that statement after this. So you get the Classics catalog, game trials, so you get like exclusive game demos, I guess, PS5 cloud streaming, and then the Sony Pictures catalog, which I guess is like Sony exclusive movies, like you get access
to
some of that content as well.
get to watch Venom for free.
Ooh, sign me the fuck up. Yeah, right. So let's go back to that statement you just made, where we talked about the classics catalog and how it's cherry picked titles is not everything. It's just a handful of things.
Yeah.
And you immediately said, dude, if it was the entire library, I might think of signing up. And that statement, while I'm with you, it's true, just supports the fact that it's a value. It's not about the money, it's about the money compared to what I'm getting out of it. So, like, if they had, if it was 100 and, how much is it? How much did I say? Add to cart, like I'm not paying that. $160. So, for $160 a year, you have access to every PS1, PS2, PS3, and PS4 game. Well, let's just say PS1 to PS2. Let's just say PS1 and PS2 and PSP. That's a lot of content. A lot of really good content at that. I'd pay that because it's like I could pirate all these games. I could try to go to the secondhand market and buy all these games and buy old hardware, but I'm gonna spend way more building a library of games and buying the all the hardware and stuff to play this stuff when I could just have the convenience of just turning on my PS4, PS5 and just playing PS2 classics with no care in the world.
Yeah, with the price of some of these games, they cost that entire year's worth
100%.
of service. With some of these PS2
100%.
games,
Like you telling me I could play Haunting Ground whenever I want?
right? Yeah, the most
400,
one,
like
right,
$300 or $400 PS2 game. I could just play it just off my PlayStation, and it's just it's downloaded to it. That's amazing, right? But that's not the value that they're providing.
No.
So it's like that's why there's no growth. If there was more value, then I think they would see more growth. In fact, I know they would see more growth because more people would say, you know what, it is worth it because look at what I'm getting. Like this is great, But that's not the case. So
yeah, it's select. So it's probably Sony first parties. So you'll get your God of War. You get to play God of War on PS2, which is cool and whatnot. But I understand that it's in a perfect world we'd have the entire PS2 library, but there are Capcom, Square Enix, Rockstar, they're all going to want a piece of that. If you have all of Devil May Cry there, Capcom's will be like, hey bruh, slide me a 10, you know what I'm saying? So I understand that there's like logistical reasons as to why that can't really be a thing, but knowing that the question's still the same. Like, is the value worth the price that I'm giving to Sony? And that, I mean, we could break it down and like maybe attach a number percentile to, is it worth it or not? But at the end of the day, it's going to come from you. So that's why you'll have guys like your coworker who stand Game Pass because to him and the type of gamer that he is, Game Pass is a steal. He's practically getting away with murder when going with Game Pass. But for a gamer like you or me or maybe someone else, or the guy who just wanted to buy Black Ops, not even 6, Black Ops, we're going to attach different values to the service.
Yeah, it's like and like the people who advocate for this stuff don't take that into consideration. They don't like think about that. They just go, well, I'm this kind of player. Clearly, everybody else has to be, right? Like, if I value it this high, you have to, like, how can you not? And it's like, that's not how everybody sees it, And some people are better with money, or like they value the dollar more. So like, they really they put more thought into like, well, how far can this dollar go for me? Whatever. And listen, I'm not like this isn't financial advice. I'm not a fucking financial guru. Listen, I'm broke, I'm poor. I'm just a normal gamer dude on the internet. Like, I'm nothing special. Like, I'm the last person who should be telling anybody how to spend their money. But like, I'm just talking about things from my perspective and my opinions on it and my take. And so I pulled up the PlayStation Classics library like listing, and they got some stuff here like let's see, Dragon's Crown, Twisted Metal 2, Killzone Liberation, which was on PSP. Let's see, they got Legend of Dragoon on PS1, Siphon Filter 1 and 2, Heavenly Sword. They have like 4 Ratchet and Clank games. Ape Escape, the first one, which is pretty cool. Dark Cloud 1 and 2. All the Jack and Daxter games. They got stuff, but like, it's not everything. You know what I mean? Like, it's just
yeah.
And like looking at the library, like I see a lot of stuff that I would buy or that I would play, but like 100 and
like is it worth 160?
Like, I don't know when I'm gonna play this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, having access to it is cool, but like, I don't know when I'm gonna fucking play. Ape Escape. I don't know when that itch is gonna occur. Like,
right. Chances are you're not gonna play all these games within a year to maybe like maximize your purchase time before another year rolls around and they charge you again.
Right, and so it's like, I don't know, man. Infamous 1 and 2. Like, they got decent stuff, but like, I'd rather spend more and have these games available in my hard copy library, because I could tell you I've spent way more than $140. Way more. Like, I've spent maybe thousands of dollars at this point on my physical game collection, but like, I have it there. You know what I mean? Like, the only way I'm gonna lose it is if somebody breaks into my house and just takes everything, or if there's like a house fire or something like that. But like, I'd rather that than to be bound to this like service that is only gonna. History's taught me that services like this and companies like this are only going to try to cheat you out of your money over time. Like, it might, like Game Pass started off as a great service, but now look at it now. 4 or 5 years later, it's like, well, let's increase the price. Oh, we're gonna attach these like clauses. Well, you could only play the day one games if you pay us more, and da 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 da. It's like, it's only gonna get worse over time. So like, if I signed up for PlayStation Premium now, I kind of see some value in it. It's like, okay, well, there's some stuff, right? What's it gonna look like in 3 years when I'm $400 in the hole paying for the service? You know what I mean? It's like, at that point, it's like, who's the idiot here, right?
Yeah, it's like, how much would you have paid if you kind of like saved your pennies and maybe kind of built your collection, bought a PS2, which you could still do, and like, maybe get, or maybe, I know everybody doesn't like it, consider emulation or something. But if we want to not talk about emulation, we're talking about physical versus the quote-unquote official
we could talk about emulation.
Digital way.
That's not the topic point, but like, we could discuss it. Emulation, listen, I emulate games on my PC 100%, and I have like portable game devices that have emulators on it, and I play GBA games and DS games and whatever. But like, emulation is obviously the best economic approach to it. Like, obviously you're spending
that's why I tend not to mention it, because it's like,
but like, you're spending a lot of time. It takes time to sit here and download the shit and like catalog it and organize it and back it up and all this other stuff. Like, it takes time to do it. Like, it's not fun. It's a pretty miserable thing to do. Like, sit here and downloading all these ROMs or whatever. Even though I know it makes me sound incredibly lazy, but like, it's not an engaging thing. And like, I don't think anybody has fun doing that, right? But like, and I mentioned it before we started recording, convenience is the antidote to piracy. We talked about Spotify earlier before we started recording. I don't use Spotify, but I could see the value proposition in Spotify because of the convenience factor of like, I want to hear this song right now, and as long as I have internet connection, I could just type in the name of the song or the name of the artist or the genre, and there it is. And then I could tell Spotify to find music similar to this song, so in case I'm feeling a certain mood and I want to hear more music similar to this particular track. It'll just do it for me. Like, that's pretty incredible. That's a high value proposition. I don't know how much Spotify is. I know you use it, so
$10 a month.
$10 a month. That's not bad.
Yeah.
As long as you have internet connection, you got access to all the music and basically history.
Yeah. And they also have like, I'm not trying to hashtag not an ad, but they have like a podcast and stuff. So, a lot of, if you're a big Joe Rogan fan, he's tied to Spotify. I know that was a big Spotify boost. So there's other stuff, but if we keep it to the music, yeah, it's just, if you've listened to any of our podcasts, I'm also a big proponent of physical media. It's just for music, I'm very selective. I might like one song out of an entire album, like 24 songs, for example, and I like one. Spotify allows me to easily and conveniently, like Kong was talking about, take that one song and put it in a playlist. Which, can you do that physically? Yes, you can take the CD, burn the CD, get an MP3 player, and make a 90s rock playlist. And you can put that song and other songs in there. But it goes to the same vein as emulation. That's a lot more like micromanaging and cataloging and work, quite frankly, than just booting up Spotify and hitting 90s rock playlist and just you're off.
Exactly. It's about the convenience. Convenience is the key. Like for Nintendo, we didn't talk about Nintendo yet. We will in a minute. Like, dude, if they made everything, if they made everything available on their platform and they just resold it all, like they don't, it doesn't even have to be tied to service. It could be both. They could try to sell all the the games individually, and if you pay monthly, you just have access to all the stuff. They would make way more money. Like, it's insane how much they would make if they put Wind Waker downloadable on the Switch, or if they made Ocarina of Time just available for purchase. Like, you didn't have to pay for the membership. You just pay $10. Like, so many people would go ape shit and just start buying shit.
Yeah, I mean, Nintendo's already kind of they're doing like half of that. So they will remake older games. They did it with not Wind Waker, I wish. Skyward Sword, they did it with Link to the Past. Well, that was like a full-on remake. Link to the Past. They recently did it with Paper Mario, Thousand Year Door, and very recently, Luigi's Mansion 2 finally left the realm of 3DS. It is now on the Switch. So they're kind of doing half of that. So if they did what you were saying and did the standalone physical $70, $60 release, and then also tied it to their online service, yeah, I think that'd be some pretty big value right there. But I think Nintendo knows something that Microsoft doesn't, because that's the problem with Microsoft. So like Call of Duty, they own Activision now. So Call of Duty is not exclusive, but if you want to get like the quote unquote optimal playing experience, you're probably better off on an Xbox console or PC via Game Pass, or both via Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
But Nintendo, they could easily put like the games I just mentioned on the Nintendo Plus tack on an extra $20, and I'm going to speak for myself, I'd probably do it. But Nintendo knows that you can make way more money off of someone if you sell them that game for $70. I own Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. That was a $60 game. I bought the Skyward Sword. I've bought the Link to the Past. I've bought a couple of their games that they've taken from like the 3DS, the Wii, and the Wii U, and either remastered them or just ported them. Yeah, and I've paid, in some cases, not all, full price for these. Nintendo is doing that because they know if they attached it to a service, they would lose money. They can make more money by having the person pay the premium price for the game. Microsoft hasn't done that. They think putting it on Game Pass and making it day one is great value, but you see them shutting down studios. Partly there's a greed aspect to there for sure, but another is the games that would make $70 at launch, because that's what they would pay for them. I don't have to do that because I'm paying the $10 a month to play. What was the one that Tango got shut down for?
Almost like Gravity Rush. Jesus Christ!
The rhythm game.
Fuck, it's escaping me. But
yes, okay. But if anybody, if we don't, it doesn't come to us at some point. Somebody put in the comments. that studio shut down, but that game had rave reviews. It stole the spotlight, although it wasn't that hard, from fucking Forspoken, the $3 trillion Square Enix flop. Like, that small indie game was way more popular, but the problem was it was on Game Pass, so it was $10 a month. Now, if they charged $60 for it, I don't know. Maybe
Hi-Fi
Tango
Rush.
would still be around.
Hi-Fi
maybe
Rush.
Hi-Fi Rush. There
Yes,
you go.
I have to look it up.
Yeah,
totally forgot.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, like, Nintendo knows that they could probably attach, their first-party IP games to their Nintendo service and make money. They also know that they can make more money selling them at a full $60 to $70, and people will buy them. Xbox is not doing that. So, a lot of these games their sales are not going to be what they probably would be, because you're going to have a lot of Xbox Game Pass people who are going to go, I could spend $70 on the new COD, but I could just spend $20 and I have access to COD day one. So, and I think that's what's also hurting Game Pass, which is causing these studios to shut down and Microsoft to kind of penny pinch now and bump the price of Game Pass.
They're taking a wash on a lot of those games, right? Because there's how many people would have bought Hi-Fi Rush had they just released it normally versus how many people who already had Game Pass who played Hi-Fi Rush for free, essentially. It's like they didn't pay anything extra. And I think that's why they're doing the whole, like, day one Game Pass is only tied to, like, the $20 tier. I think that makes a lot of sense. From a business standpoint, I get it. But
yeah, I think they have to do it to keep Game Pass.
Yeah, there really isn't
valuable.
another option. Like, and I think this is just a temporary fix for because what are the alternatives? Well, they can continue to lose money, which will piss off the shareholders, which then people will start losing their jobs, and we'll just get another corporate dickhead at the top who's just gonna fuck us anyway. So like the people, the decision makers are going to be like, well, I don't want to lose my job. This is not the hill I'm going to die on. Fuck that, right? Or we roll back what Game Pass is and we eliminate the day one stuff, and then we have all the gamers get upset, and then they start boycotting us, and then hashtag cancel Xbox starts becoming a thing, and I get fired anyway. So it's like, well, what's the middle ground? Well, let's charge them a little more. Let's not charge them too much. Let's spin this to the shareholders. Like, listen. I know we had a rough year, whatever. We saw a X% drop in this sale and blah, 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 but we closed this studio, we closed that studio, so we saved X million dollars here and X million dollars there. We're going to charge more here, and the projected sales, they're going to upsell it to the old guy who doesn't even know what an Xbox looks like, right? Because all he cares about is, well, I want you to turn my dollar into $3. That's all he cares about. And for the gamers, the people who actually pay for the service, they see a $5 increase and they reason it. They go, well, it's just $5 more. I mean, what am I really saying here? I'm going to pay the $15 anyway. And I want to play Gears of War. So for $5 more, I can play Gears of War. That's a good deal. So fuck it, I'll do it. Right. And they'll do it. So I don't blame Microsoft for doing what they're doing. I hate just the infrastructure of the business model as a whole. I'm not a fan of it. Subscription-based services. I feel the same way about like insurance. Insurance of any kind is like built on this foundation of like, I'm gonna scam people out of their money and I'm gonna sell them the idea of a service. Because if you have car insurance or health insurance or any kind of insurance, they make it incredibly difficult for you to utilize what you paid for. Because insurance companies aren't interested in your well-being per se. They're interested in how much you'll pay for the idea of being protected in an unfortunate event. That's like, how much can I charge this guy, right? Like, that's really what it's about. And then when the time comes where you need to cash in your insurance to fix your car, and they're like, well, according to our notes here, like your insurance doesn't cover that. Like they'll find any loophole to not pay you, to not give you what you paid for, or whatever. That's a whole nother
And
conversation.
you cannot, yeah, you cannot have insurance because at least in the U.S. it's against the law.
Right, and then
You have
then
to
you
have
have that nice
insurance.
little caveat, right, where it's like it's illegal to not pay this fucking Ponzi scheme or whatever. I'm not gonna go down that road.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go down that road. We're gonna stick to games. But like, there's a parallel there, and so I hate both of them.
It's like the same methodology. Yeah, it's all around the same
Yeah,
methodology.
like the mentality is similar. There's overlap there, and I hate what it stands for, and the fact that I'm powerless to it and I can't really do anything about it is like more infuriating. It's like, oh, it sucks, but it is what it is. Like at that point, I just got to make you know decisions within my control, and one of those things is, well, I don't have to pay for this service. I can instead pay
Right.
for
Yeah.
entertainment in other ways, or I can sail the seven seas. It is what it is.
Yeah, at least with gaming, there are options. Like, yeah, you can sail the seven seas. You can just live in the past, have your old archive of old man games, or just be very selective with the modern stuff that you buy. It's like, all right, this is my game for this month. This is my AAA game, and after that, I'll see what comes out next month. I'll wait for some reviews, patches, Game of the Year editions, and you'll come back and get it at a better value, from places like GameStop or, mom and pop stores that'll sell the game for cheaper. So,
Yeah, listen, like they're at the recording of this video, like Wukong hasn't come out yet, but it's on the horizon, and that game looks awesome. But I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, well, I could buy it, right? But it's like I bought Stellar Blade a few months ago, and I enjoyed that game. But if I could go back and not buy it at launch and get it later this year for like half of what I paid, I think I'd opt to do that. And so, that's not a shot at the Stellar Blade game. Like I've been following that game for years now, and so I feel like I probably should get it at launch because I've been looking at this game for a while or whatever. But like, to be honest with you, I don't feel like I missed out on anything really playing it in April versus playing it later in December. Like the experience would have been exactly the
probably
same,
not.
pretty
Yeah.
much. I just wouldn't have been a part of the conversation, which whatever. Um, and Dragon's Dogma 2, I bought that at launch because it's like, oh my god, Dragon's Dogma. I played it for an hour and I got distracted with something else, and I haven't played it since. And now the game is like on sale for $40, and I'm like, god damn it, I should have just waited, you know. And it's like, so now with Wukong and like other games that are coming out later this year, I'm just like, you know what, bro? Unless I have immediate plans to play it right then and there, I'm probably chilling. I'm probably just gonna let it sit. Um, the only game that I plan to play like at launch, at least as of right now, and this could change, which would be odd for me, but you never know, is Monster Hunter Wilds. That's pretty much the only game that I'm like, I'm gonna play it, I'm gonna buy it day one, I'm gonna play it day one. Everything else is kind of like, yeah, that looks cool, I guess. Am I gonna play it day one? Probably. Like, I'm probably not gonna play day one. I'm probably just gonna fire up a fucking GBA game for like the 10th time and be like, yeah, I'm just gonna play through this because whatever, you know. So the idea of like,
Yeah.
now that I feel like that about buying individual titles, at least at launch day one, I don't know. Like the idea of just kind of throwing money into this void for this air quotes service to these games that I may or may not play right away is just like, I feel like I'm just throwing money away at that point.
Yeah. So for you, yeah, for you and Game Pass is just it's not worth it because you don't need to play COD if at all. But let's just say you were interested. You don't need to play COD day one. You don't need to play the eventual Fallout game or Elder Scrolls or what the fuck else? The latest Blizzard game. You don't need to play that day one. So like the appeal of the $20 Game Pass is just not there for you. It's just like, and I understand that. I get that. So like it goes back to what we were saying about its value is different for every individual person. So I'm not gonna say, when you add it up and say Game Pass is now gonna be $100 or $240. Most people are like, that's a lot of money. That's not worth it. But if you have a guy who's like the type of gamer who has to play everything at launch, new game. Helldivers was last week. I'm playing that new shit, that new free to play shooter that's out now. That's the new shit. If you're that type of person, then yeah, I think Game Pass is extremely valuable.
Yeah, the value proposition is going to change from a case by case because some people, and this is gonna sound fucked up, maybe not, but like this is just the truth. Like if we're having this conversation, let's say I was 15 years younger than what I am, right? I'm in my mid 30s now. If I was like 20, 21 years old now, I would probably be on the Game Pass train. Honestly, like I think I would be like, yeah, man, like this is because at that time, at least if I look back into my actual past, like I didn't value money the same way that I value it now, right? I don't manage it the same way that I manage it now. So like $240 a year, I know isn't a lot of money in the grand scheme of things. And for me, I would be more loosey goosey with that money 15 years ago than I am now. Like now I'm like, do I really like when I was talking about buying games day one or whatever, Dragon's Dogma I paid $70 for, and I don't necessarily regret it. Like it's not like the $30 is life or death or anything like that, but it's just like trying to get the best deal possible and knowing that like money is finite and like
yeah,
you have to work for it, and like so you want to make it every dollar you want it to do as much for you as possible, right? And so that $30 could have just been a whole nother game, right? That could have been a phone bill, right? Or whatever. Like, I could have taken that 30 and made it do something else for me versus giving me the same thing that I could have gotten for half had I just waited, which would have been better with hindsight because it's like, well, I didn't even play Dragon's Dogma 2 this entire time that I had it because I was playing other shit or like, ooh, I saw an indie game. I was like, oh, I want to play this, or oh, fuck, I feel like playing old Yu-Gi-Oh games, so let me fire that up and whatever. And it's like, Jesus.
And then by time by time, and then by the time you bought it to when you didn't play it, it's now the sales are beginning. So it's just like look, I ended up not playing the game, and if past me would not buy the game, present me now could have gotten it for $40.
Right, and I still wouldn't play it because I'm not playing it now. So it's like I probably won't play Dragon's Dogma until later this year, maybe, right? And it's like by then it might be $25. You know what I mean? It's like fuck.
Yeah.
So like and that's a learning experience. But what the original point was, I think there's a lack of foresight, and companies prey on that foresight, that lack of foresight. Because everything that I'm mentioning and I'm talking about is essentially foresight, right? If I don't buy Wukong when it comes out in a few weeks, but I buy it next year, 2025 next year, let's say I get a little, Monster Hunter, it dies down a little bit, and I'm like, all right, well, we're in between, like, DLC content or whatever. I got nothing to do. I want to play something, and there's Wukong. It's at Best Buy for $19.99 on sale or clearance, $15. It's like, well, shit. I'm gonna play it now, and I'm paying like 80% less than what I would have had I bought it last year. And I probably wouldn't have played it last year at launch anyway. I probably would have played it now when I'm in the mood to play something like it. So it's like, and a lot of people don't have that foresight, right? Most people don't have it, right? And so,
well, yeah, the foresight and then the susceptibility or lack thereof to social pressures.
That's another factor.
It's like,
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like a lot of people are gonna play the newest Black Ops, going back to the Game Pass thing, because that's gonna be day one on their new plan. And it's just like, I gotta play Black Ops 6. So if I'm not playing it day one, I'm not prestiging with everybody else. And this whole artificial, if I'm not with everybody, then I'm gonna be left out and I'm gonna be a loser.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that probably drives a certain percentile of purchases because people just have to be, they gotta be in the cycle. Like I gotta if I don't understand what the memes are, I'm lost and confused. And for a lot of people, they don't care. It's just like, I don't, whatever, dog. Okay, I'm sure that's funny if I knew what was going on, but whatever. But other people, it's just like, nah, I have to know. I have to be in the know. So, then you're getting Game Pass
I think
to
for
play
sure
Xbox.
that's the case because like right now, Elden Ring DLC came out a few weeks ago, and I did not download it. I didn't buy it, and it's not that I couldn't. I definitely, I have the money. Like I have money in my digital wallet now. Like I could just download it, and it wouldn't affect anything. But like I know I'm not gonna play it right away because I'm just not a DLC guy. Like once a game comes out and I play it and I finish it, I'm done. I'm moving on to the next thing, and I'll probably revisit the game in the future. But like I can't. It's hard for me to go back to because in my mind I'm like I already did this. Like why am I doing it again? Unless it's fun, which in a lot of cases, a lot of games are only fun that first time, and that's it. And then it becomes a memory. Yeah, I played that game. That game was cool, and it's like that's it. That's most games, quite frankly. Many games or very few games test the pass the test of time and like have true replayability. Like very few games can do that. At least for me, And I think a lot of people would agree with that. And I didn't play it, and I know you played it. I know Esoteric is playing it. He was streaming it for a bit, and everybody's like, it's all the rage. And like it's been weeks removed, and now nobody's talking about it anymore. Now it's not even like a real, because everybody, it's come and gone, just like I knew it would. And like, and I love the Elden Ring game. Like I played that game for almost 200 hours, and I only have one playthrough of it. I tried to do everything in the game, and I loved it. But like, meh, I'm good. I'm playing Yu-Gi-Oh 2006, bro. Like I'm good. I'm okay over here. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. Maybe it's just a me thing. Maybe I'm just like not the target because I'm not susceptible to that social pressure, and a lot of people are, especially younger people. Because I think a younger me might have been susceptible to it. Maybe I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I mean, I ended up playing the Elden Ring because summer is notoriously kind of dry. The dry season when it comes to video games, and in the month of July, it was real for me anyway. It was only Elden Ring and Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, and one is a JRPG that will take hours to fully complete, and one is a action RPG that has length to it, but since this is the DLC, it's significantly smaller than base Elden Ring. So it's like, well, if these are the only games I'm going to play in the month of July, all right, let me play Elden Ring first, finish it, and then I can do a second playthrough later. Because sometimes I like, I still do playthroughs of Bloodborne. Because every now and then I'll get a Soulsborne Sekiro itch.
I feel you.
And I'll do a run. So it's like, all right, well, once I finish the DLC, if I ever get I want to do another Elden Ring. I now have tons of like game between the base game and the DLC. So yeah, once I beat the game, I went back to Shin Megami. And what is it? The month of August, the only game that's on my radar is, as far as new releases go, is Darkest Dungeon 2 because it's finally coming to consoles. That's it. Other than that, I'm probably just gonna play something on my 3DS again, or some other or maybe the 500th run of Final Fantasy IX. So, I get that, and I think, we have outgrown the FOMO and the marketing susceptibility of seeing an ad on a social media page. It's like, oh fuck, everybody's talking about Elden Ring. I gotta play it because this ad said it's cool, and I gotta be there because the ad said so.
Yeah, it's right. That's my immediate reaction.
But like these live services, that is definitely part of their marketing. I'm pretty sure Xbox was thinking we're going to get a lot of people signing up for our service if we say all of the games that you see in this Xbox conference, this showcase, will be day one Game Pass. Because a person who doesn't want to miss out on these games, they now know if I just buy Game Pass, I'm going to have access to all of these games day one. And they won't miss out. So they'll be happy.
And the people who advocate for it will continue to use that as like a big selling point, which is fair enough. Like that is a big selling point. I can't deny that.
Yeah, I've learned not to, or me, I've kind of transitioned and grown to not really dunk on these people, to not really like belittle them. Like if you love Game Pass and you think it's great and you have no problem
Honestly,
dropping the
I'm happy
$20 a
for you.
month,
Like I'm glad.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
cheers, brother. Like shit. If you could find value in that and like you genuinely get like tons of hours of return in that investment, then I think it's a great service for you. Like that's cool, man. It's
yeah.
not for me, but like good for you. And like genuinely, not like in a sarcastic like, oh, good for okay, buddy. Like not in that way. Just in a genuine like, hey,
No.
good for you, dude. So
Yeah, I mean, if that's how you want to play games, fine. I'm not like, it doesn't do me any good to belittle someone who's like, I gotta play the latest game right now. It's like, all right, well, there you go.
yeah,
It's they got you covered, man.
yeah, exactly. So there's just two things I wanted to mention. So we talked about Nintendo a little bit, and I want to go over their service. So Nintendo Switch Online has two tiers to their membership. There's the basic tier, which is $20 a year, and then their online expansion, which is $50 a year. So with their base membership, the $20 one, you get to play your stuff online. You get access to the original Nintendo library, the NES library, as well as the Super Nintendo library, as well as the original Game Boy library. You get to save your data on the cloud for most games. They're going to be select games like Pokemon that you can't do that. Nintendo Switch Online app. So there's like an app you can download to your phone to manage your purchases in your library or whatever. And then you also get like exclusive discounts, kind of like the PlayStation Plus discounts. And then for the expansion membership, you get everything I just mentioned, plus the N64 library, Game Boy Advance library, and you also get the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pack, Animal Crossing DLC, Splatoon DLC, and the Sega Genesis library as well. Um, when this first was announced, I was dunking on it. I was like, "There's no way I'm paying $50 for this." But like, it's $30 more for like N64, Game Boy Advance, and Sega Genesis, as well as DLC for these games. I don't play any of these games, so it doesn't matter to me. But like for those who do,
Yeah.
that doesn't seem like a terrible deal. Considering these DLC packs are anywhere from $10 to $20. I think this is probably the best value you can find among the big three. And these are individual tiers. There's a family option where if you want the basic membership, so all the things that I mentioned for basic, 35 a year for 8 accounts, and then the expansion, $80 a year for 8 accounts. So like if me, you, and 6 other of our friends wanted the expansion, we could pay $10 a year among the 8 of us hypothetically and get everything, right? And that's not terrible. That's not bad at all,
That's not bad.
right?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to mention
But
that.
like the yeah, yeah. No, it's a great, like for me and you and probably the rest of us that appear on the podcast, like we'd like that because we could see ourselves playing N64 and GBA and some of these games. But like I hinted at it in the beginning of the this episode, that's super situational.
Yeah,
If like you're either too young to even know what an N64 is, let alone care about it, or you just don't want to play those games, the value of it just kind of evaporates really
yeah,
quickly. If you take all of that stuff away because you don't care about it, what are you left with? You're left with online play, which I have heard is notoriously bad. My only experience with it is Monster Hunter Rise, and I can only speak to that experience. I did not have a bad time playing Rise. When,
same.
me, Kong, Wolf, Zeta were playing Rise kind of frequently, we very rarely had an instance where we were getting kicked. But I hear horror stories from Smash Bros. So, I don't know. I can't speak to that. But you only get online play, cloud storage, and I guess discounts on certain things. That's it. If you take away all the old school emulation, that's it. And if you compare that to what Sony and Microsoft is giving, it's cheaper, sure, but the value, one can make an argument that it's less, or like not even worth the $20, let alone 50. And I can't really dunk on that, but I think it's a certain type of person who's going to buy, especially the expansion pass as they call it, because the only person that's gonna buy that is someone our age or was exposed to older games, because yeah, they're gonna buy it to play N64, GBA, and Genesis games. That's what they're buying it for.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. But from my perspective, I am an older gamer now. Um, the value proposition for the Nintendo and the price is way higher than that of PlayStation and Xbox. And yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. Like I
Yeah,
think it's more valuable, but you're absolutely correct in that a younger gamer who, let's say, only plays like modern games is going to see more value in the Game Pass option versus this. But yeah, it's cheaper in their minds. Like, yeah, it's cheaper. I'm not playing no fucking GBA games. I don't play no Dance Platoon. Like, none of this appeals to me. And so they're gonna go, well, yeah, I'd rather give Microsoft $240 and have access to Gears and Call of Duty day one because that is more appealing to them. And that segues into the last thing I wanted to mention before we wrap up is there's another article on Game World Observer that I'll link in the description down below. And this one was published on the 3rd of July. And it's titled Co-op Games Accounted for Nearly 40% of All Games Sold on Steam in 2023, and their popularity continues to grow. I think modern games, I think there's a lot more multiplayer focused titles than there ever was in history. And I think that's only going to
yeah,
grow because that's what people are buying. And then a lot of people buy some of these games to play with their friends or to play with other people or whatever, or to compete. And that's only going to continue to increase as as time passes. There are going to be more live service games. There are going to be more online only games. There are going to be more co-op experiences, and so I just think the way we know gaming to be right now is just going to continue to change. Some people would say evolve. I don't know if I would use that word, but
yeah, I wouldn't
but
necessarily.
sure, some people it's evolving. It's turning into this social thing. Like you don't just play games alone anymore. It's like it's a shared experience, and you can look at things like Twitch and Let's Plays and on YouTube and things like that as like a precursor to what the video game industry is today, and what it will continue to turn into. And I think I don't know, man. I get older and I start to like just see things more. My perspective and like my scope is just wider than it used to be, and so I see things that I didn't see before, that I ignored before, and my tastes haven't really changed all that much, and so it's like in politics, not to bring up politics, but like it's like the Overton window thing where it's like I haven't changed, but the environment around me has changed enough to where now I'm in a different category somehow. It's kind of like that, and it's like I just think it's I think just the days are numbered. Like I think it's just I'll still be a gamer. I think I'll be a gamer for all of my days, but like that being a gamer is like either it's changing what it means to be a gamer, or there's like these new categories. And so instead of just being a gamer, I'm now just like a boomer gamer. I'm just like an old man gamer.
Yeah,
So yeah,
and yeah, you gotta adjust. Uh, well, all of us in our little group, we just have to adjust how we play. Whether that means we play less, we just gravitate towards different mediums, more like indie games, games made by people our age who have like the same mentality when it comes to making video games. And you know what? Hey, and I used to like bemoan it, but now it's like, it's I can't stop the flow of time. And if this is the direction things want to go, and if the majority of people are willing to throw their money behind it and their time and their investment, I can say, I don't really think that's good in the long run, but it's probably going to happen anyway. So, just there are more important things worth, putting your neck on the line for, and I think video games isn't really it. So, I got what I have, and I'll continue. Like you said, I'll probably be a gamer for the rest of my days. But just what I play, when I play, how much I play, it'll just probably be smaller and more focused instead of wide like it used to be. It's all right. It's fine.
Yeah, it's like trying to swim upstream or trying to swim like up a waterfall. It's like you're fighting against something way more powerful than you, and like you're not going to overcome it at that point. Just kind of float and just kind of let the current take you wherever it's going to take you,
Yeah.
and just kind of accept it. And because it's exhausting, swimming against the current. And it's like, dude, like I don't want to do this anymore, you know. And that's kind of where I'm at. Like we have these conversations, and like that's the whole idea of the podcast is to discuss these things. But like, you know, I you can't see me right now, but I'm just kind of shrugging at my computer. I'm just like, whatever. Like if people are gonna buy Game Pass or if they're gonna continue to allow themselves to get gimped by companies, then all right, cool. Like it is what it is. Like you're not gonna get my $140 Microsoft, so
Yeah.
you know,
I mean,
hey. But anyways, that being said, we have reached the end of the podcast. We've discussed everything we wanted to, I think. If you enjoyed listening,
I'd say so.
leave a like on the video, leave a comment, let us know what you think. What's your stance on subscription based services for video games or in general? You could talk Netflix or Hulu Plus or Disney Plus or Paramount Plus or Peacock or all the other fucking subs that are out there.
All the pluses,
All the pluses
and
and all that shit. You can mention it down below. We'd love to hear from you. If you feel opposite, you feel like we're totally off base and we're just a bunch of old people screaming at the sky, then let us know. Subscribe for more content. We do podcasts every single week. We publish every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. Check the description for all the mentioned articles. So there'll be 2 articles in the description. It'll be the one talking about Game Pass and their price increase, as well as the co-op game one. So that'll be down there for you. I'll also link the home pages of each major service: PlayStation Plus, Nintendo Switch Online, and Microsoft's Game Pass. So if you want to look at that, you can, and decide if you want to be a part of that ecosystem or not. In the description as well is all of our social media links. So we have a presence on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We have a Discord. We also have a Twitch. Mr. Esoteric, who isn't a part of this particular episode, he streams on Twitch 2 to 3 times a week. He plays all sorts of games. The last thing I remember him playing was Elden Ring DLC. So definitely give him a look, follow, and check out his stream. I think you wouldn't regret it. And yeah, with that being said, we'll see you in the next week's episode.
See you later. Yeah. See you next time.